What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. A little while ago, it was announced that Ezreal, Morgana, and KAYLE would be the next upcoming champion reworks coming to the game. So we've already made a video on Ezreal. If you missed it, you could check it out. But this time, we're going to tackle the Light and Dark sisters, KAYLE and Morgana, who are going to be released as a dual rework. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it or let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for some more videos. Now, KAYLE and Morgana were both part of the initial champion roster from February 21 of 2009, alongside 15 other champions that originally started in the game. KAYLE since then has actually gone through 4 different passives. Her first one was to give bonus attack speed to all nearby champions, with KAYLE getting a larger boost when an affected allied champion died. That was from way back in beta. The next, her passive gave her a stacking attack speed buff whenever she killed an enemy champion or was near an allied champion when they died. Her third passive gave her an AD based on her ability power and ability power based on her AD. In July 2011, KAYLE received a new model and the passive that she finally still has to this day. Morgana, on the other hand, has been much less changed than her sister. At one point early on, Black Shield also cleansed any negative effects from the target, so you didn't even need to shield the carry before he got whacked by a 3-second stun, but since then that effect was removed, and Morgana's passive has also been reworded a couple of times here and there, but the effect kind of stayed the same for the most part. It used to read as bonus spell vamp, but then it got taken out of the game, so it was changed to now. And Morgana in particular is pretty much the oldest champion that still holds up the best to this day. You know, a lot of the other champions that were released at that time, almost all of them entirely have had a full-scale visual ability rework. Until now, that is. Riot August, the designer of Jinx, Gnar, Vi, Echo, and Jhin, is actually the person who is behind bringing these 2 old champions up to date, so both of the champions are going to be getting new themes to complement their new models and effects. These have been slightly hinted at being Targonian from Riot Reeve 3, although many speculate Morgana to be perhaps a Darkin character, while KAYLE is an Ascended one. All the Darkin, kind of like Aatrox, Varus, Kayn, so far have been attached to weapons though, and Morgana doesn't exactly have a weapon, so it's kind of a disconnect from the thematics there. They could attach the Darkin effect to the armor instead, or maybe they'll give Morgana a weapon, some kind of a wand or staff would probably work fine. It's really anyone's guess at this point for what could happen. KAYLE being Ascended as well doesn't seem too far-fetched, and she seems right at home with the other Targonian Ascended champions, which are Diana, Leona, Pantheon, Zoe, and Taric. Anyway, let's go over what you can expect to see with the individual changes to the champion's kit and abilities. So first up, let's cover Morgana because she's changing the least. So her kit still holds up fairly well in 2018, I gotta say. For a champion that was designed during beta, she's probably one of, if not the actual best design from beta that still is in the game today. She's got clear strengths in her crowd control and magic immune granting Black Shield, and clear weaknesses in her lack of mobility or escapes, without having anything in particular that's too frustrating to play against. And her ultimate is especially a really cool piece of design, and it's surprising to see that ability actually came from all the way back in beta. Riot has basically said with Morgana, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, she's a popular champion, her kit is fine for the most part, and if they did update anything, they said it would probably just be only on her passive or her W to better match her new theme, but for the most part she's probably not going to receive too many changes for her gameplay. But I would say in addition to Morgana's passive probably couldn't hurt, maybe something that's a little bit more engaging or exciting, some kind of like passive effect really isn't all that interesting. They could definitely add some sort of component to bring it out a little bit more. Maybe changing it to something like every X amount of spells, her next spell heals for a portion of the damage, or every 3rd spell that hits an enemy that heals extra, or something that's a little bit more interesting to play with, but even then it's not really that necessary to change it. And Riot Reeve 3 backs up the statement on the champion roadmap by saying that Morgana is for the most part going to be a visual update only, unless they can somehow think of a really good update to her previously mentioned abilities that doesn't risk changing or removing something that players enjoy. Riot August has stated since then that nothing has really stuck so far though, and Morgana might actually end up with no gameplay changes at all. The quote being that he said, "I've been exploring light changes to Morgana and so far nothing I've tried has stuck. Her kit is already great as it is on live, so we're only going to make small changes if it's clear that they make her better. We're totally fine shipping 0 gameplay changes to Morgana if we can't find anything that meets her high bar that her kit currently already sets." Either way, I gotta say, I'm definitely looking forward to a new Morgana model and visual upgrade, and just kind of an overall new paint job with her theme. Now, KAYLE, on the other hand, is exploring a much deeper redesign, as she's typically had quite a few gameplay problems throughout the years. Riot definitely wants to keep her core identity as a melee ranged hybrid early game and ranged powerhouse in the late game. It'll be pretty interesting to see what direction they go in role-wise for her as a champion, because right now, KAYLE can kind of play just about every role. And we know she's supposed to retain her kind of protect and attacking sort of feel and gameplay style as well. Her abilities are definitely all pretty old school though, so I imagine the rework will at least be on the level of Warwick, where they kind of keep the champion's identity intact while still overhauling almost all of her abilities, except for probably her ultimate. Let's go through the abilities for KAYLE one by one as for what we can expect, because there's probably going to be pretty significant change to them. So for her passive, Riot has been liking very interesting and interactive / engaging passives lately, so KAYLE's passive is probably going to get some kind of twist or perhaps an interesting mechanic on it. Since she's a Retribution Paladin type character, maybe she'll get some kind of ability that marks enemy champions as like evil or something that needs to be retributed on by some means, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of my prediction, is like she'll get an ability that marks an enemy and then other abilities get bonus damage or effects based on if the target is actually marked or not. It's kind of just a random prediction. I can't really say that there's specific information for what's going to happen, but KAYLE's passive has obviously been an ability that Riot has definitely not been satisfied with throughout the years, so it's definitely likely that she's getting pretty much an entirely new passive. Next up, we got KAYLE's Q, Reckoning, a point and click damage and slow. A history of reworks with Riot says that this ability is definitely going to change. You know, most reworks of old champions end up doing away with any point and click abilities and changing them into skill shots, like Warwick's ultimate, Swain's Q, and Akali's Q. So I imagine at the very least, KAYLE's Q is almost certainly going to be turned into some kind of skill shot ability that probably just does the same thing, slows the first target hit or the first champion hit, and does a pretty nice burst of damage. And by changing a targeted ability to a skill shot, you get to add power to it in other ways that make it more interesting. Perhaps they could change it to just be a stun instead of a slow, or it could maybe do more damage, or have some kind of area of effect damage, or having a longer range is a very big typical one like with Warwick, or just overall getting some kind of upgrade or power bonus in other areas of her kit. Now after KAYLE's Q, we have her W, Divine Blessing. Now this is another point and click ability, but when you're doing a point and click heal effect on your allies, it's definitely a lot different to something that actually does damage or crowd control. I have to say, for this ability, it's tough to say what it's going to get changed into. I think she'll probably keep some kind of heal effect on her actual gameplay, and probably some kind of movement speed bonus, because having a movement speed bonus is pretty key when you have a character that switches from range to melee back and forth like she does with her E. You know, sometimes she's melee, sometimes she's range. You want the movement speed effect to be able to get into melee range when your range auto attacks actually run out. Now I have to say, I wouldn't be surprised to see this ability kind of stay the same without receiving too much major change, but this has always been an ability on KAYLE that I think definitely has a lot of room for improvement, so overall it's probably likely that she'll receive a new W, but in a way that kind of has a similar role or fulfills a similar need in her overall gameplay as kind of like a support ability in some ways. Next up is KAYLE's E, Righteous Fury, which is an active ability that makes her auto attacks ranged and gives her AoE bonus damage. Now this is probably the most interesting ability to rework because it's very core to who KAYLE is and who KAYLE plays as other than her ultimate. They're probably just going to go with a kind of a minimal change here and just keep the ability as it is. They could still keep this as kind of like, oh, it gives her area of effect damage or some kind of like auto attack modifier, but in that case, it's going to really change KAYLE's gameplay quite a lot, and it would allow them to rework her E quite significantly. So it all kind of depends, because they're definitely going to keep KAYLE ranged in some way, shape, or form, but they can't really make significant changes to her E without making her entirely a ranged champion. So it kind of just depends on that. I have to say, I would probably guess that they're not going to have much significant change to her E and instead have the significant change be on her Q and W. But there's definitely a lot of room for possibilities here, and really just any way you slice it, it's definitely going to be probably the thing to look out for, the most interesting thing to maybe see for in the KAYLE rework. And lastly, we have KAYLE's ultimate intervention, which makes the target invulnerable for a few seconds. And this is really just KAYLE's defining tool. If you had to ask me what is something that's not going to change on KAYLE, it's absolutely, definitely her ultimate. I think it's extremely likely that she keeps her ultimate in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it might get nerfed or tweaked a little bit, but it's almost certainly going to stay on her kit. And with the way Riot is saying KAYLE's rework is going to go, she's still going to be able to protect, she's still going to be able to attack. I definitely am very confident that her ultimate is going to stay on her kit in some way, shape, or form. Now, something that could potentially be kind of interesting is adding an additional effect to the ultimate, maybe like giving it a buff to the ally or increasing some kind of mechanics with it in some way, but that would probably make it a little bit too overpowered. However, anything is possible when you change a targeted ability to a skill shot on a kit, so we'll have to wait and see for that one. Anyway, that's going to be all of the information we have available for the upcoming rework for KAYLE Morgana, as well as kind of some of my speculation and thoughts. I'm extremely excited for the KAYLE rework, and I think the Morgana rework is just going to be really cool and an awesome thing to get an update for. So overall, it's definitely going to be a pretty exciting release. Now, KAYLE and Morgana's rework are confirmed to be after Ezreal's and also after the next new champion, so this one isn't going to be happening for quite some time, but it'll definitely get there eventually. So let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys next time.